Hi, welcome to the Mindful Movement series with First Ascents. My name is Tara with Love Yoga, and my First Ascents nickname is Sprinkles. The first First Ascents trip I went on was in Estes Park in 2018, and we are actually filming from Estes Park today. This is one of the locations of the First Ascents programs this year called the Dow House. It's a beautiful spot, and we're very lucky to film. I am here today with Red, and she is my alumni helper for this MS Warrior Mindful Movement class. So I'm going to introduce her, and she's going to talk about herself.
Hi, my name is Emily. My FD nickname is Red. The first FD program I went on was in Crested Butte. We went skiing back in 2020. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 17 years old, so almost 17 years ago, and I refused to let it stop me, and it really encouraged me to really continue to move my body, and I wanted to share that with the MS community. So I am a certified personal trainer, adaptive fitness trainer, and teach classes for people living with MS. So I'm so excited to be a part of this MS mindful movement.
And so we're gonna get started. Thanks so much for being here, Red. And the way that we're going to begin is through a brief meditation that I call a mindfulness check-in. We're going to be checking in with our body, our breath, what's going on in our mind, and then we'll be setting an intention for practice. So we invite you all just to get comfortable. Red is going to be sitting here crisscross applesauce, and nice and comfortable for her, and that very well might not be for you, and that's okay. So I'm sitting in a chair, feet flat on the floor, my spine is straight against the back of the chair. You could actually do this first part laying down as well. So just get into a position that works for you. And then we'll start to close down the eyes. You can also just fix your gaze on something that's not moving if closing the eyes isn't comfortable for you. And start to notice how you're feeling today. So checking in with your physical body first, and paying careful attention to if you have any tension in your muscles or any pain. Very common with MS. And it's okay if you do. So mindfulness is just paying attention without any judgment, bringing yourself into this present moment. Also noticing what is happening to your body temperature right now. Trying to make sure you feel as though it's not too hot. Doing what you need to get comfortable. Noticing if there's anything with your vision that feels a little blurry. And then also noticing your fatigue levels, or if you have more energy today. And it is okay if you are feeling a little bit more depleted than usual. It's just recognizing it and then using that as something that helps you modify your practice. The beautiful part about yoga is you don't have to do what we are doing. You can choose your own path, choose your own adventure. And we will be offering many modifications today. Mindfulness is just knowing which one works for you. And also just notice if you're feeling present and grounded. And we'll start to tune into your breathing and how the breath is flowing through the body. Maybe it feels like it's flowing in, and it might feel cooler on the inhale and warmer on the exhale. You may notice where the breath is moving. Sometimes it can be up in the chest and feel a little choppy or shallow. Notice if you are able to move it throughout your torso, even breathing down into your belly. And see what it feels like to take a deeper breath, inhaling, maybe even counting to 4 or 5, and exhaling releasing for the same count. Nice long, deep breaths in and out. Do that a few more times, just lengthening the inhales and exhales, and noticing how that feels as it moves through your body. You may notice that there's a stir of extra energy, and that's known as prana or chi. It's just that life force moving through our body. And then try to keep those longer inhales and exhales and smooth them out a bit. So you may envision your breath to have more of a fluid-like pattern, as though it's a river that's just running down through the mountains. Gentle current. Imagining that that breath is cooling you off as well. And then even one step further, can you slow your breath down? So keeping it long and smooth. On the inhales and exhales, can you breathe in just a little bit slower? And then out slower as well. What starts to happen here is you regulate your nervous system. Slower inhales draws in oxygen a little less, and then when we slow the exhales down, we're releasing the carbon dioxide a little slower too. And what happens is we're actually putting the brakes on the stress response. This can be very beneficial for regulating the nervous system, which is good for MS. And from this peaceful space of regulating the breath, check in with your mind on what you're feeling today. What kind of thoughts are coming into your sense of being? When you're navigating a chronic condition, sometimes days are more challenging than others. And so just noticing what kind of day this is for you. Perhaps you feel a little limited, and that's okay. Or perhaps you feel like you're thriving, which is okay too. Is there anything you can do right now to adjust your mindset so that you start to let go of anything that feels limiting? And that brings us to the last part of this check-in, to set an intention for this practice. And so if you feel limited at all, perhaps bring an intention into your heart today that is to be stronger than MS and to allow yourself to focus and be present, have grace for yourself, and get in touch with your body and your breath. If you're feeling great already, then it's maintaining that sense of positivity throughout the rest of your practice, bringing in maybe a sense of peace as well. We'll take a deep breath in through the nose and sigh it out through the mouth. Just letting go of any tension. And then we'll blink open the eyes. And before we start moving, Emily, how are you feeling today? What came up for you during the check-in?
Noticing maybe like a little bit of pain, and excited to be present. Like it almost made me emotional. Just like really giving myself permission to be present.
Yeah. That actually came up in one of the other videos we filmed as well, the intro and the breathing. It brings us in touch with ourselves and we feel connected, and sometimes it's hard to slow down and actually take the time for ourselves, and when we do, then it can bring up emotion. So just let that happen. Yoga can do that, and we actually have another class that you could do that is a restore, rest, and relax class, and that's one that also helps you slow down. So just letting you all know about that one as well. And Emily, where is the pain that you're feeling today? To the legs?
In my legs, mostly.
Probably from traveling here on the plane. She just flew in for this program that's going on this week. Okay, well, awesome. Let's go ahead and get started with the warm-up, because usually movement helps, right? Movement's medicine. And this actually comes from some of Emily's videos that she has on her YouTube channel, and that link will be underneath the video notes, so you can actually follow her and do more of her practices. It involves a tennis ball, so you're gonna need one of those. And I'm gonna do it sitting down. She's gonna be showing the movement standing up. And these movements are going to be involving breathing as well. So the first one is going to be a squeeze and release. And so we're gonna inhale, squeeze the tennis ball, exhale, release, then give it a toss up to the other hand. Inhale, squeeze, exhale, release, and then toss up. Inhale, squeeze, exhale, release. And so finding if it's easier to look at the ball as you do this, or sometimes you can try looking ahead, which I find more challenging. I kind of have to look at the ball. Focusing on the breath and the mindful movements. If it gets easy for you, then you may want to even involve other little movements of the body. It takes a lot for me to actually focus on what we're doing, especially when you involve the breath, right? Emily does this exercise but much faster to work on neuromotor and just eye-hand coordination, but we're doing that as well here. All right, now we're going to move towards the exchange in the front. And so we're going to open up the arms and bring them together. Then inhale, switch the ball and bring the arms back. Exhale, close. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. So as you inhale, you're opening and squeezing shoulder blades together, opening the heart, and then exhale is kind of rounding and closing. Good, just getting that chest nice and open. One more. Then we're gonna be switching to the overhead exchange. So I'm just gonna bring my arms down and then inhale, up overhead, exchange, exhale down. Good. Inhale up and exhale down. And we'll do 2 more of these. So it's sort of like a sun salutation in yoga, just bringing the arms up overhead, getting a nice shoulder stretch. Good. And then we'll move to our big circle. So having the ball in front, and then we'll bring it over to the side and around. So it's gonna be inhaling as we roll forward, exhaling back. So you're activating your core here, getting some good movement, and Emily is getting into it, using the legs, getting more movement and some strengthening, and we'll switch directions. So inhaling to the left, good, and back around as you exhale. This makes me like, it's your birthday, or whatever. And we'll do one more, and then we stop. And we're gonna hang on to this tennis ball and use it again for our feet. So we warmed up our hands, and now we're gonna start to get grounded. This could also be done sitting down. I'm gonna stand up right now, and I'll kind of show it sitting down as well. But we'll be starting with our right foot, and I'm just mirroring them. Well, yeah, I just mirror. Sorry, I was going to tell you, I mirror them, so yeah. Okay, so starting with that right foot, we're going to put it underneath our heel. And we're going to start by making sure we feel really grounded in this left leg. Foot is pressing down, and you can have hands on hips or hands by your sides. Hips are probably going to stabilize you a little more. Obviously, if you're in a chair, then same thing. You're just going to have your knee a little more bent. We're going to inhale, press down into the heel, and then exhale, release. So you're getting a little balance in this left leg too. Inhale, press, exhale, release. Good, and we'll do one more of those. You can also use a sock roll if the ball is too hard, just FYI, because sometimes the ball can be a little intense. We're gonna switch and kind of roll it into our arch, and then we're gonna inhale, press like this one I really feel. I don't know about you, but it's intense. And it's really good to open up the arch, and we're gonna roll after that too. Inhale, press, and exhale, release. And I like to give the arch a good roll because, yeah, it's intense. So you're holding your balance a little bit in this leg. Then we're gonna move over to, it's called the sinus tarsal. So it's like right in that ankle divot. And we're gonna try to press and inhale and then release on the exhale. Good. And one more. Ooh, balance. You got good balance. I'm hitting my hands on my head. Yeah, you just grabbed me. All right. And then we're gonna go towards our toe mound. So you're gonna actually get a good calf stretch. And so you're kind of pressing down into your heel and then pressing into the toe mound. Inhale and exhale. It takes a little strength actually to do this one. So it's good. And one more. And then I like to kind of wrap my toes and roll the toes as well. And then give it a good roll under the whole foot. So getting that whole foot rolled out. And I would love for you, before we switch sides, to bring both feet to the floor. And just notice what's going on in that right foot versus the left. And do you notice a difference? Yeah.
It's more stretched out, or maybe loose or not so tight.
Yeah, and it kind of like presence is drawn to it, right?
Nerves are like...
They're fired on. So like I will roll out my feet before I go on a run or walk sometimes, so I feel more present with where I put my feet while I'm doing it. Yeah, so let's do the other side and see if we can even ourselves back out. So we'll do the same thing. I'm gonna actually sit down and just show this from a seated position this time, since you know where we're going. And so we're gonna be inhaling, press into the heel. If you're sitting down, you're gonna notice it takes a little more force. You don't have the body weight. So inhale and exhale. And we'll do one more of those. And then we'll move towards our arch. And inhale and exhale. And it doesn't have to be that you're putting all of your body weight on it when you're sitting down. It's just more you're bringing sensation to those areas. So then we'll roll that arch out. Good. And then going under that ankle divot and pressing in and out. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Good. And then to the toe mound. If you're sitting down, you may have to bring it out. In front of you, you're not going to get quite the calf stretch, but you can still put the pressure on the toe mound as you press and release. Good. And then we'll roll the toes, trying to grip with the toes and spread them out a bit. And then roll the whole foot. So just giving it a little love. Okay, and we'll put the balls out to the side. So from this grounded place that we, from grounding our feet, we're gonna feel like really secure as we move into this next exercise. We're gonna move into Tadasana or mountain pose. And before we do, we're gonna shake it out. We're just gonna move the arms, move the legs. Even if you're in a chair, you can actually do this. And you just wanna get some energy flowing. And this actually helps to regulate the nervous system. It shakes off any stress response that you might feel. We have a mindful moment called the Mindful Mountain where I do this exercise explicitly, so tune into that. Now Emily's gonna come into wide legs. Her feet are more than hip width distance apart, and I'm gonna do this sitting down. There's an option to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Now, balancing is a little tricky, then you can keep your eyes open and just find what we call a focal point or a dristi in yoga. And it's just a point that's not moving that you can focus on. And so we'll just, if you're comfortable, close the eyes or find that dristi. Feel your feet pressing down. You should feel those, like the nerves that have been fired from rolling them out. Nice sense of grounding. And we're going to just start to inhale from our feet up to our ankles and exhale from ankles down to feet. And then inhale from your feet up to your knees. Exhale from knees down to your feet. And you'll stack your knees right above your ankles. So there might be a little subtle shift here. And then inhale from your feet up to your hips. Exhale, hips down to your heels. Stacking hips above your knees. Again, subtle shift, and check in with the lower half of your body. Just noticing if anything feels more grounded. And then we'll continue going up from inhale, feet up to your shoulders. And then exhale, shoulders down to your feet. And you may even shrug the shoulders up, let them roll down your back, stacking your shoulders right above your hips. And may notice that you have a nice long spine and your chest is a little bit more open now. And then we'll inhale from your feet to the crown of your head. Then exhale from your head down to your heels and stack your head right above your shoulders. And so I usually end up having to tuck my chin back a little bit to get my head right above my shoulders. And then I feel like I'm standing really tall, or in my case, sitting really tall right now. And so often in life, we aren't doing that, right? Like it's so easy to either energetically we're protecting our heart space and rounding the shoulders, or perhaps we're on our computer a lot, or even in adventurous activities like rock climbing or kayaking, we might have a round in the shoulders. So it's good to always open it up, find that sense of presence. And from here, I would love for you to do another mindful check-in. So just noticing with your body how those muscles are starting to feel, if they're more open, if they're maybe starting to feel a little less tense, or if you still are feeling some pain. Again, no judgment here, just noticing. Because we'll start to move a little more, and hopefully that will help as well. And then noticing your body temperature, you may be feeling a little bit more heated because we have started moving a bit. So just noticing that, noticing your vision and whether this is your sense of balance has been off because of closing your eyes, or if it's easier to keep the eyes open. And then also checking in with the energy levels and where you're at, how much energy you have for the rest of practice. Emily, how are you feeling now?
A little better. Getting movement helps for sure.
Yeah, right? Just a little flow of energy. All right, well, we'll continue to move. So from this grounded position that we're going to take a few sun salutations, okay? And again, I can do this sitting down. So we're just going to bring our arms down by our sides, feel the feet grounded. And then we're going to inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky, palms touch. Exhale, pull your hands to your heart center. Good. And then arms drop down, inhale, reach them wide and up. And then as you exhale, I like to bring my arms wide as I forward fold. And you may decide to actually have some blocks in front of you or something like a water bottle so that you can keep a flat back here, or just bring your hands to your legs, especially if you get dizzy. And then we'll inhale, root down, rise slowly, noticing if you feel dizzy, arms come up. Exhale, pull your hands to your heart. Good. And we'll do another one. So inhale, arms sweep up, hands to your heart. And once again, inhale, sweeping up. This time, exhale, we'll come to that forward fold, whatever's comfortable for you. And then starting to round, slowly rising back up, just noticing how that feels. Arms come back up overhead. And exhale, hands to heart center. We're gonna pause here, and we're gonna come into a side bend. So keeping your feet wide, inhale, bring the palms up, and grab onto one of your wrists. Good. And then we're gonna exhale over to the left. Good. Inhale to center, switch the wrists, and over to the right. Feeling that side body stretch, we'll go back to each side. Inhale, center, and over to the left, and back up, switch, and to the right. Very good. And rising back up, we'll bring the arms down. We're gonna start to come down to our hands and knees. And so you can put the blocks just to the side because we'll probably use them later. And hands and knees, I always like to start by stacking shoulders over wrists and hips over knees. And I will probably go back and forth to a chair a few times because a lot of this stuff can be done in a chair as well. So we're gonna start out with just some basic cat-cows. And I know that we wanna keep the neck neutral here, right? And when you come into dropping the belly and gazing forward, you're just going to still gaze down, where normally we would bring the gaze up, but we want to keep the neck neutral. And then as you exhale and round the spine, again, we're not going to tuck the chin to chest, we're going to keep the neck neutral. So these are just some basic inhale, coming into the spinal extension, exhale to spinal flexion, pressing down, and noticing how that feels. So Red's gonna keep doing that on her knees. If you're in a chair, it's inhale, the chest comes forward, and then exhale, rounding the spine, just like this. Squeezing shoulder blades together, and rounding. We'll do one more. All right, and then back to center, finding neutral. And we'll come into puppy pose, which is we're gonna walk the fingertips forward. And I like to keep my fingertips tented up, but you can also have your hands flat. And then my hips are just stacked above the knees. So my hips are staying in the air this time. And then head comes down between the hands, between the arms, and we're just gonna hover. You could have, if you had a pillow or something at home, you could put your head on it or on a block. And you want to just breathe here, nice and smooth inhales and exhales. And you're going to feel like you're rinsing your shoulders. And so if you're in a chair, I would invite you to actually maybe come behind it if it's comfortable for you to stand up to get this stretch, or we're going for this movement, stretching into the shoulders. So you can take maybe your hands together, and I have my pointer fingers kind of towards the ceiling, and I'm really stretching up, and you get the same activation. Good. Now from this pose, let's go ahead and come back into a child's pose. So rocking the hips back, arms extended, and just coming into a nice rest here. And if you're in a chair, I would say just either close down the eyes or find that soft gaze and slow down the breath. And from child's pose, we're going to rock up to hands and knees and come into a downward facing dog. And the way I like to do this is I just lift my knees and tip the sit bones up, and then I let my arms are extended and heads between my arms, just like puppy pose. So I'm gonna feel that same activation, and I wanna keep that. So then I can start to pedal out one foot and then the other, and that will stretch into the hamstrings. But hamstrings can be really tight, so if you notice you straighten your legs and you start to round forward, it's best to keep the knees bent. All right, check Emily out here, looking good. And so bringing maybe the feet just a little bit wider apart. Yeah, there you go. And then, yeah, getting a little action there. She's got great form. And again, if you are looking for that shoulder extension in the chair, just bringing the arms up, maybe doing a few of these cactus pulses. I'm gonna move your blanket out of the way because I'm gonna have you come forward into a, actually no, I'm gonna leave it there. Come forward into a low lunge. Yeah, good. So her right leg is forward in a low lunge, and we're going to, start to rise the arms up overhead, reaching through the fingertips, pressing down into our feet and into the toes, good. And just coming into our breath, releasing the breath. Noticing how this feels. If you're in a chair, you can actually do lunges in a chair, which is kind of cool. So just one leg comes forward, other is back. And then you're gonna have an option here to come into a crescent lunge, which is just then lifting this back leg like this and staying, well, you do all the exercise videos, so she's got the strength to do it. And yeah, exactly. I'm gonna stay kneeling. And so she's reaching up through the fingers, keeping that nice bent knee. And if it's comfortable for her, she may even take a few dips here, up and down. So strengthening the legs, maybe just like 4 times, feeling the burn. Yeah, exactly. Good. Moving the arms. If you're on your knees, you can do that. And then after that last one, nice, you can just bring your hands down and take these blocks to maybe and come into a pyramid pose. So yeah, keeping that same foot forward, stretching into that back leg, and keeping the neck neutral here, because this can be a forward fold, but that would be tucking the neck. So keeping everything straight. Good. Nice, smooth breath. From here, we're going to move into a warrior 2. And so you are going to just spin that back heel flat, nice, and keep that bend in your knee, and then come into warrior 2. And I'm gonna show how to do this kneeling. So I'm just gonna swing my heel back from a lunge, which I just switched legs because I don't wanna be not facing the camera. But I'm doing this on my knees, which is totally possible, and it's also really easy to do a warrior 2 in a chair by opening up one knee to the side and bringing your leg out like this. So lots of options for you today, whatever works for you. And we actually are going to hold this for a few breaths. And in yoga, breath is really what helps us sustain ourselves in poses. So nice fluid inhales and exhales, lengthening it, inhales, lengthening the exhales like we did in the beginning of class. And in our warrior poses, we're finding our strength and maybe a little softness as well in the arms, and just noticing where the tension comes up for you. It may be hard to actually hold the pose, and that's okay. You can invite in gentle movements that feel right to you. You can drop to a knee at any time. But when we hold these warrior poses a little longer and we tune into our breath, then we show that we are stronger than MS. Yeah, there you go. And so we're gonna hold this for one more breath. You totally got this. Nice. And then just turn your toes to the front and we're gonna take a forward fold. And I would use the block here, staying at a flat back, neutral spine. Trying to keep the neck neutral for that thermit sign symptom that can come up. And slowing down the breath, noticing how you feel. And then we're going to go ahead and turn to the other side. So you're gonna turn towards me, good, and your other leg's gonna be forward. Yeah, exactly, there you go. So then the left leg is gonna be in front, and then low lunge, rising up, and I'm gonna be in the chair doing it. Nice. Feeling into your feet and lifting up through the fingertips. Yeah, the hip flexors, gotta open those up, right? And then we'll see how it feels to lift up to the high lunge, good. She's got strong legs. And Emily's gonna take a few pulses here. We're moving our arms if you're on the kneeling lunge, staying there, or in the chair, good. We'll do one more of those. And then just straightening that front leg, coming into that pyramid pose, good with the blocks. You could do that in a chair too, but just sort of leaning into the hamstring is really what we're stretching here. You could have something underneath if it's hard to reach down. And we're gonna rise up into a warrior two. So, yeah, I thought we were going the right direction, but we're switching it up so that we're not facing the camera. But your left leg is still forward in warrior two. Yeah, all right, and then coming into, actually I'd be this way in the chair this time. Holding that warrior pose, reminding yourself that you are an MS warrior, and so you are stronger than it. Yoga teaches us these things. This impermanence that we feel in the poses is going to be over in a few short breaths. You got this. The perseverance that you endure on your mat is carried into life. 2 more breaths. Good, and then you're gonna start to come back into that wide-legged forward fold, just releasing, feeling into the hamstrings. Keeping that neutral spine. And then we're gonna start to turn back towards me and drop down to our knees. And we're gonna start to come down onto your back. So, or we can actually do some of this seated as well. We'll start with this butterfly pose. So the feet are gonna be together. And there's also an option to do this supine. So if I was gonna do this supine, I'll show a few ways. You could take, if you have a blanket or a towel at home, and roll it. And I can lay down on the blanket, which will open up my chest. And then I can take 2 pillows, or I have blocks here, and open up to a butterfly shape. So arms come out, and you get a lot of extension there. And if you're doing it seated, then you'll be just like Emily. And just taking a few mindful breaths. Your eyes can be opened or closed. Just starting the cooling down part of this class. And then we'll start to move into coming down onto your back completely, Emily. And yeah, you can just kind of put the props aside. And just go ahead and lay flat. I'm gonna let you take your feet about mat width distance apart and windshield wiper your legs a few times. So you're just gonna move them side to side. If you're in a chair, you can do this as well. Windshield wipering the legs feels really good. You're getting some movement in the hips. Good. And then if you'd like to take a twist, you can just drop your knees down to one side and stack your legs. Yep, just like that. Sometimes it feels good to put a pillow between the knees. If the twist feels really tight, that's an option as well. And bring them to the other side. Good. And if you're in a chair, it's just a simple twist to one side, gazing over the shoulders, and like this. And then go ahead and just bring your legs nice and long. You're gonna come into your final resting pose. It's called Shavasana, or corpse pose in yoga. And I'm gonna put a blanket under your knees, Emily. Sometimes it feels good, a little supportive to have that. And as you are lying down, you're gonna start to just surrender your body, letting everything get really heavy. If you're in a chair, then go ahead and make sure your back is against something supportive. Feet are nice and grounded. And I like to leave the palms facing up in both laying down or in a chair. It's kind of this gesture that we're receiving, staying open to whatever is coming next. And I would love for you to start to check in with yourself one more time. So thinking about starting with that body temperature, maybe it got a little bit elevated as we were moving through class. Notice what's happening to it now. You may feel a little bit warm, or you may notice that you're cooling off. And then start to notice what's happening with your muscles, whether the movement's helped a little bit, if you're feeling more open, maybe a little less tense. And oftentimes when we move mindfully and we move in a way that is helpful for our body, then pain will actually go away. And syncing movement with breath helps with reducing pain as well. And then starting to think about your energy levels. Maybe you feel a little more energized than before by bringing that flow of prana into the body. Maybe you're starting to feel more relaxed. Or maybe you're feeling kind of drained because that was quite a workout. And then also noticing if you're feeling more present in your body. Checking in with your breath and how it's flowing. Maybe it's a little more abundant than before we started. And checking in with your mind. What sort of thoughts are circulating? Perhaps you feel empowered, doing something that you hadn't done before, challenging yourself in different ways. Maybe you feel stronger than MS right now. And if frustration comes in, that's normal too. Just knowing though that mindfulness is being aware and not having any judgment, having more grace for ourselves, because it's not really about the postures that we put our body into or the stretches that we do. It's really about how we feel afterwards and whether that helped us and made us feel stronger, made us feel a little bit more open, whether we were working on some things that our goals for ourselves. And then check back in with that intention that you had set in the beginning. And does it still hold true? And can you take that with you today? Or maybe there's a new intention that you would like to keep. Because yoga is really more about what we do off of our mats than what we do on them. The practice is so that we can transfer to how we live our lives. So think of something that you want to take with you and how you live the rest of your day or even the week ahead. And begin to deepen your breath and create some movements in your fingers and toes and wrists and ankles. And if it feels okay, you can stretch your arms up overhead, reaching from fingers down to your toes. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and bend your knees and roll onto one side, coming up to seated position. Good. And we'll bring our hands to just heart center, taking a few mindful breaths here to close the practice. Noticing how you feel after taking that resting pose. Having that moment to reset at the end of a practice is so important for regulating the nervous system. So hopefully you feel rested. And we'll say namaste, which means the light and love in me honors the same in all of you in this FD community. And how do you feel right now, Emily?
I feel like more energized and not as much pain.
Oh, that's good.
So,
Yeah.
And more flexible, so it feels good.
Good. Yeah, so just knowing that, little by little, you'll work through the kinks in the body, whatever it has in store for you, and hopefully you all enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.